in order. So I'm sorry that for those listening on the audio podcast, you cannot see this. Wish you could. Sorry that you can't. Nevertheless, here we go. On September the 1st, LSU takes on USC in Las Vegas. We know that, okay? Have been knowing that. Going to be a big-time game, okay, in Vegas. Looking forward to that one. There'll be a lot of turnover from both teams, really, with quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels won't be there. Caleb Williams won't be there. Garrett Nussmeier looks like he's going to be the starter as of right now. We'll see. Nevertheless, big game, week 1, USC in Vegas. Looking forward to that. You come home in 6 days, and you take on Nichols. Look, man, you know what that game's about. Come on. Here's where I think a little things start to get interesting. Okay, because you go to South Carolina, which I think South Carolina had a very tough year. I don't think that they, at least in my opinion, have gotten a lot better. Okay, now they got Rocket Sanders, the running back from Arkansas, out of the portal today, but their offensive line has been really bad. I think that's a really good game for you. I think that you can go up to South Carolina and look at a venue that you don't play in a lot. And that you can win. You come home the following week, you play UCLA in a game, which I got to be honest with you, man. I want that UCLA game. Okay, I want to beat UCLA after what happened in 2021. Remember when Orgeron said the sissy blue shirt, they're coming back to Baton Rouge so that you can repay the favor. I'm sneakily a word. I'm sneaky, like looking forward to that one. I'm not saying I'm looking more forward to USC in Vegas, because I am looking forward to that game more. I think it's a more high profile game, but I would also be lying if me saying UCLA coming into Death Valley, I don't want a little bit of a revenge there. Then on September 28th, you got South Alabama, and then your first bye week, which I love a lot. On October the 5th, you go through the 5 games, then have a bye. There, in my opinion, I say this every year, and then when it comes down to it, I say to myself, Blake, don't do it. Don't pick LSU in week 1. Look, man, I see a very real scenario where you can be 5-0. I see a really real scenario where you can be 3-2. Do I lean to the side of you being 5-0 going into that bye week? Yeah, I kind of do. I also see a scenario where, man, you have not looked good in week 1 football games. And you got USC, and I know that their defense sucks. I know that they've been underperforming under Lincoln Riley on defense. They get a new DC. Obviously, ironically enough, the DC from UCLA goes over to USC. They do have a couple pieces. Some of you will remember Tackett Curtis in recruiting. I'm not going to pick the wins and losses right now. We're obviously way, way, way too far away for me to come out here and start predicting what I think is going to happen in 2024. I like it, though. I think that you have the ability to be undefeated. But there's a very, very real scenario. You could drop that first game to USC, and I'm going to be real with you. You could drop the game to UCLA if you're not careful. If you do not find out things defensively, if Garrett Nussmeier is not the guy that we ultimately think that he is, there's a lot of question marks that have to be made here. And in this entire segment, that's going to be the main topic. Look, man, you got 5 games. You got a bye week. That's lovely, by the way. Very lovely that you have 2 bye weeks. Can rest up after a tough 5-game stretch. Then you get back at it after the 5th of October. I really love the bye week before Ole Miss. Look, I just think that Ole Miss is a team that already is returning a lot of pieces. They're returning a lot of guys. They got Trey Harris that's returning. Jackson Dart looks like he's returning. You got Quinshad Judkins. Got a lot of offensive linemen that are returning. And look, they might add Juice Wells from South Carolina. With that being said, look, man, Ole Miss might have a little bit of a squad next year. You're not going to like saying it. You're going to look at Blake and say, Blake, that's bullshit. We're going to beat him at home. I agree, actually, that I think of all these games I feel the best about, the bye week, then you have Ole Miss. I just don't see you or envision you losing to Ole Miss at home. I like this stretch right here, even though you have back-to-back road games, right? Like at Arkansas, at Texas A&M. I don't mind that. That's a pretty fair 3-game stretch right there. You know Carter's sad about going on back-to-back road games. It's very tough. It is very tough. But you have a young coaching staff and Texas A&M. They've got a lot of pieces that left that program. And you have what could be at that point of the season a very struggling Arkansas team. I like the bye. So pretty much the entire month of October, I feel really good about. Like, I know, even with the back-to-back road games, Ole Miss, struggling Texas A&M, and what could be Sam Pittman fired Arkansas team with Bobby P being the interim, I love it. I love it. Now, I'm not saying that you'll go undefeated there. I think back-to-back road games are brutal. But, man, that's such a good stretch in the month of October. Then you get the bye. You got Alabama at home. So, listen, your SEC schedule from the 5th to the 30th, the back half, so November, all of November, I like that these games are at home. The toughest game that you have is, in my opinion, is obviously Alabama, but you're not going on the road but to Florida. And if you have not seen this yet, Florida, the last 5 games that they have are more brutal than anybody in the country. Florida got screwed. Florida got absolutely hosed in their 2024 schedule. Like the back 5, I think, and I'm just remembering this off the top of my head. It's like LSU, Georgia, Texas, Florida State, Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they don't have Alabama. Let me look at that really quickly. Hold on. Look, their schedule is absolutely insane. Let me pull this up very quickly. Florida. Here it is, right here. So this is Florida's schedule for next year. Their last 5 games, Georgia, which, by the way, Kentucky before the bye, which I think is going to be a tough game. Kentucky's actually, ironically, killing it in the portal right now. Okay, let me see. We actually talked about that on the Ruffino and Joe show. They got the Macklin kid, the wide receiver from North Texas that LSU was actually after too. He had 57 catches, 1,004 yards, 11 touchdowns. They got Chip Trainum, 240-pound back. Brock Vandegrift is coming in from Georgia. They got Raymond Contrell from Texas A&M. Even the last 6 games of their schedule is brutal. Kentucky, Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. So it wasn't Bama, it was Ole Miss. That's brutal, dude. Absolutely freaking brutal. So in reference to LSU's schedule, in the back half of that, I feel good, honestly, with Brian Kelly at home. Brian Kelly really has only, if I'm not mistaken, wait, is Tennessee the only loss in 2 years at home that Brian Kelly has? They play better under Brian Kelly at home. They just do. Then you got Oklahoma to wrap up the schedule at the end of the year. I told you this about a year ago. You didn't believe me, but I'm going to say it again. They're going to try. I remember y'all arguing me about this. I told you that they were going to make Oklahoma and LSU a thing. Putting LSU versus Oklahoma at the end of the year is them trying to make it a thing. And I got to be real with you. I don't mind it. I actually kind of like it a little bit. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a rivalry with Oklahoma. I had a buddy in the SEC office, actually, a really good buddy that's in the SEC office. And he told me a year ago when we talked about this and we had the opponents that were released. And I said, look, man, I'm telling you right now, Oklahoma being in the SEC, they're going to make them and LSU a thing. Don't be surprised if you see that game popping up a little bit more, that game being at the end part of the year, why they could have easily made Arkansas the thing they didn't. You got Texas and Texas A&M, the last game on the 30th at the end of the year. You got the Iron Bowl. Georgia will be out of conference, taking on Georgia Tech. They're going to make this a thing. You watch what I'm telling you. Maybe I'm wrong. But going back to LSU's schedule for just a moment, and to wrap this all up, I'll just use this right here. To wrap this all up, USC, Nicholls State, at South Carolina, UCLA, South Alabama, Ole Miss. Now, the back half of October, you have 2 away games. That you might not like that. I don't actually mind that part at all. Then you have an open date, Alabama, at Florida, Vanderbilt. Guys, come on, Vanderbilt. Okay, Thanksgiving week. If I'm pretty sure that might be Thanksgiving week. Maybe it's Oklahoma week. I don't remember when Thanksgiving is, or I don't know when Thanksgiving is next year. Okay, but then Vanderbilt. Guys, the truth is, this isn't a bad schedule. The first half, there's going to be a lot of challenges. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's going to be a lot of challenges in the first part of the year. I think October and November are pretty favorable in reference to, like, hey, man, you're not facing back-to-back games that are going to be absolutely brutal. Now, Bama's always going to be a thing. You know that. Oklahoma's is a good football team. But I'm not fearful of any team at night coming into Death Valley. Never. You can say what you want. I'm never going to